Chapter 7 Ion Lunatic Break. Matthew, through the creature, continues to speak. What happened back at the turn of the century, whether it was the time, in other words the original time, or the virtual copy of that time, I do not know. Most likely the original can be if you lived it that way. Time is sort of like putty in cycles. At the turn of the century, a massive solar flare from the sun and other places occurred. This because of the death of a few, this shutting off and damaging most electronics. This included all life on Earth, human and animal. Bugs from the moon were upon the Earth, brought here through imagination in the mid-20th century. These were upon the Earth. Elements from Mars were also upon the Earth. These Mars elements lived in hyperspace, not willing to change their citizenship. I have seen a few. Long story short, the moon bugs began to feed themselves with the people, and because of not much time, the bugs for the first time began to understand people. They began to inhabit them, exploring in depth the human being. They concluded what they had to do. One of these things to do was to power up the Earth by using the dark side of the moon. Using hyperspace, they began to do, never seeing the elements belonging to Mars. Mars now having more power, being oppressed by the bugs, went throughout the Earth, present, future, and past. Throughout time, they played. Yeah. To control the Earth, the negativity of the moon was brought. Thick darkness covered the Earth for humans and animals. Many bugs were created. The lack of electrons on the moon caused the moon to be unstable, this resulting in the moon slowly falling to the Earth. More bugs come. Somehow, in time and without time, in a second of time, the face of the Earth and its inhabitants get swallowed up in the moon. Most lie sleeping while the bug people build this portion in the moon. While it had taken place, although some move and walk, but most of the visuals are virtual, this making some slight real and some slight not. For instance, through the store was both virtual and upon the Earth. The sleeping people were never seen, despite they were in the store. If the machine separates itself, one will see a fairly awful place, yet the machines are cleaning that for cover's sake. Once those that belong to the system, in part the moon, it will leave, with its catch, leaving behind bodies of the souls it captured. The moon is in part hovering and bouncing off the Earth as I speak, but we cannot see it because our brainwaves are being augmented. Most of what is seen is virtual, yet for realism's sake, many walk in the very locations of their destination. The Earth system is virtually copied and placed in the moon, as well as on the Earth. So there are two, one on the Earth and one in the moon. The system calculated the destruction of the face of the Earth, once the retraction of the universe has begun to take place, and not only that, but sooner than that. As soon as the face of the Earth begins to change, as solar bodies come closer than should be. Until its slow destruction, the system is programmed to fight for the Earth, for its people, protecting its catch. Fighting it off includes anti-gravity, keeping back the wild vegetation, covering the lack of the people from the rest of the universe, building cars and other machines. Free from the system most likely means to watch the face of the Earth being destroyed, avoiding any violent interaction with those from the universe and exploration. The system and the way it interacts with the Earth is bizarre. Say you took a car and decided to keep it. You drive it into the wilderness where there is most likely nothing. This is the same as throwing the car into fire and expecting the car to remain the same. Another example, say you took a car and placed it in a place with 30 the times of gravity on Earth. The car will no longer work. Outside the system could, in ways, be considered death, but it is livable. Livable as a wild animal in the sewer. a human can live on the outside. I cannot help but want to explore the outside. It could almost be as a scorched earth, but the plants would still be out there. If I pretend they're out there, Matthew begins saying. Is he coming to mind? Matthew. It is said all become this dust, and now this dust is used to blanket the ever-cycling, structured earth and the moon. A cryptid of America. When outside the system, they can do and go anywhere. To see the earth from the outside is as if they, the earth, are on display for the entire universe. A show. A behind-the-night sky show. I can explore the entire face of the earth, receiving love from the machine as a friend. I can take whatever I want back to the sewers I want to take. I want to take, yet when I take, it is the Z, only the chemical Z. The structure is the machine. The code to the stuff is in the moon. What good is that? I have to know I must be free. That is the game show, Joff. It is. Where did it come from and the way it appeared? Out in the middle of nowhere, off-grid, out there, coming and going as it pleases. A code into the code of the earth. They hacked in. How did they do that, I ask. The moon's moon. Buying structure, I speak. The moon system is not only the only system. If you go out and go into the wilderness, you will find one system after another. He went to the structure. He could have been way up there. Think about it. Every time the earth cycles, its people are truly alive. We never knew when they were there. Time is putty. People code themselves into the system to play part at any time. Outside the show, as a game show, a part of the show, yet they were partially on the outside. I bet he wants us to live out there, behind the show, behind the night sky. Later that day, Joff, may I drink one of these? I hear GB ask from within the kitchen. The soda, I yell back. Yeah, the soda, go for it, I reply. GB and I regularly spend time at the house. I suppose it's due to most of our friends leaving the state. GB sits down on my soft, blue, comfy recliner. I look over toward her. She says, people all over the town are watching me. I hate that. GB, Matthew was over here, I begin saying worriedly. GB interrupts. I did not sign up to be regularly watched by my corrections officer. What am I going to do? GB's a model. She has an agent and managers who regularly check on her. If I continue to do my job, I'm going to snap. Why, oh why did I pick this job? This has got to be the worst job for someone who wants to be free. The more popularity I get, the more they imprison me. Such a lie, GB yells. What's a lie? I ask. Fame, Joffrey, fame. It's the biggest scam out there. What are you going to do about it, I ask. Why do all the fun things have to include prison? I don't know, Joffrey. Become an alcoholic? Move to another country? I seriously do not know. There is no way out, is there? GB asks. Maybe you ate something bad. Maybe you ate your own work and now you should cough it back up, I respond. Maybe. Why else would I notice my chains? Right, I answer. Plus, GB continues, the woman isn't got no soul. What, I ask? That song, do you remember that song? It's almost like that song is talking about me. It seriously bothers me. Joffrey overhears the author writing Ion. Read about it. Read about it. Death begins to inhabit the dark side of the moon in the 90s through the wishes of the American students. Death kills 1/3 of American students, taking their lives into his hands in 1999. To live or not to live, which is usually the question. I want you to imagine with me for a moment. I want you to imagine being the first child to step foot on the moon. One small step for a child, one giant leap for our 8th grade classroom. Cheers, applause. Now imagine being told you were going to spend the next 36 hours on the surface of the moon to do as you would if you were home. 36 hours can be a long time. You decide to explore, feel the little gravity as you run, rock climb, and hop like a rabbit. Now imagine that you walk north for 5 miles in hopes to impress the pretend home base Houston, Texas, which really is your 8th grade classroom. Over one hill and then another, you begin to see pieces of clothing that appears to be from the earth. In every direction, clothing thrown about the moon. You crouch down to get a closer look. It appears to be a shirt sleeve. You pull and pull. Up and up pops a shirt, and with it, a human arm. You might semi-scream through your helmet, but fear losing oxygen, so you stop yourself, and stopping you quickly look around. As your eyes are focusing, you see more clothing and people sticking out of the sand and the moon. Panicking, you begin to run through the clothing. As you are going up a hill to look on the other side, you see bodies. Thousands of human bodies. Who could shake of such a startling image, yet thought? I will be honest, I made up this story, it's untrue. For the sake of the book Ion it is written, we will say it is true. What happened to these people, my dear classroom of quantum possibilities, is the game show. Joffrey says, out loud, enough. Enough. I never meant the wham. I never meant 30,000 and the golden can. It does not matter, Joffrey, you're playing. Now tell us the rest of the story, Joff. Reluctantly, Joffrey speaks. Okay, the aliens gave humans power over the earth. Evil was in the world in the past. But in the 90s, in 1969, when the first moon bug arrived, along with some humans that traveled to the moon, the humans began to see who they were, and this was power. Together, as the bugs multiplied, the humans decided to lessen who they were. Most students hated school, they hated long suffering, they hated patience. They began to be no more. But from 1969 to 2000, they were only fed hope of death through a computer virus named Game Show. Let's Play Moon Fun. With a rhyme that said, let us play, let us stray, no more day, we are gay. Dark as night, on the moon we fight, those will sight will end this night. Call on me, I will set you free, you shall see your love makes you be. Tonight we hide, this night we fly, no more sigh, we all shall die. The author states in mind of the listeners. This is what was the virus. It would appear just long enough for one to read. It would then vanish, leaving a damaged computer behind in its tracks. The damaged computer would constantly remind the reader of the rhyme. None saw the rhyme unless they were chosen by the dark side of the moon. Nobody knew of the virus. Flash forward to the year 1999. In the month of December, a rhyme began. Record has it was started by a student. He called a lust of his and said, no day, moon fun, Y2K, let us have some, for we are none. She called another student repeating the rhyme. That person called one of their friends, and they called more friends, and more called even more until all the game show was collected, 1/3 of the American students. As midnight approaches January 1st, 2000, the young adults gaze up at the full moon. Now, at the time of the new year, the year 2000, 1,500,000 students disappeared, brought to the moon by their own unconscious spirits, being given lust, pleasure, and ecstasy to propel them there. And their eyes, once they arrived on the moon, they saw the paradise they self-indulgently made through imagination. Yet to the sound mind it was but rocks and dust of the moon. Death let the students have one another, thus killing their force but never destroying the body. Every evil did the students do, and this evil with one another. They hailed the game show. They valued death, shouting with the few last breaths they had. To be or not to be was never questioned. This giving power to the bugs who showed them choice above life. The host says, "This Joff, this is the game show. All the missing students of 411. The ones missing in the forest. I cut them out. It is out of them, Joff. It's out now." The host yells into their minds. "Joff, you're reading something you should not be." Stop, Joff yells.